Hi, Tammy.
Hey,
How's it going?
hey, Nate. Welcome to episode 24, right? 24.
24. We've been doing this. I guess that means, let's see,
It's gonna
twice.
be it's gonna be a year. I think it's
That
been a
means it's a
year.
year. 24
I
episodes
can't
would be a
believe.
year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. No, it doesn't. It feels like we've only done a couple of them, but we've done quite a few.
Yeah. Well, twice a month, do the math.
Mhm. So I have some big news. I'm going to
Oh,
show you
yeah.
a picture here and here. For those of you who are listening, that's my Jeep. It has puked its guts all over the shop floor. We're replacing the engine, finding lots of stuff. I'm going to need new ball joints and a new starter, and the axle seals are leaking. And
Oy.
this. I'm going to show this picture here. This is why it's so important, people, when you go out wheeling, especially in the mud and the dirt. This is the engine skid, and that's what was in it.
Yeah.
That is dirt and mud, and that is a rusted tractor. So,
Absolutely. Yeah. When I took the belly pan off of the LJ the first time, when I did the transmission, it was just a mountain of mud up in there.
yeah.
And when I took the gas tank out, it was 10 times worse
Oh, I can't
because
even imagine what's
it
up in
all just
there.
collects in that scoop underneath the gas tank, and there's nowhere for it to
Oh,
go. It can't really escape.
yeah.
There's a couple little holes there, but they get clogged up enough, and mud doesn't come out of there.
So that's kind of my son is going back to Maryland to visit his dad tomorrow, so I will at least have a vehicle. I'll be Toyota Corolla mom for a week.
That's not
So,
nearly as cool. Not
no,
nearly as
it's
cool.
not. No, for sure. So, how about you? What's
I
happening?
uh I finally got like actual honest work done on the Dana 60s. Well, at least on the front one. There's a whole bunch of if you're not following along, I've got a Ford Super Duty Dana 60 that I'm working on building for the front of the LJ. And then I've got a early 90s era Dana 60 rear that's going to go in the back of the LJ, but the Ford Super Duty needs the most work, so I've been tackling that first. A ton of bracketry to take off, a ton of disassembly is where I'm at the moment. I got the axle shafts out and I got the knuckles off. I got the hubs and stuff off. I think I had them off for our last. Maybe I didn't. I think I got the hubs off since our last episode too. So the hubs, the unit bearings, the shafts, and the knuckles are now all off, and the steering, of course, is off. I got to get the carrier and the ring and pinion out. Then I think I'm ready to really start going at it, cutting off all these brackets. The whole point is to get as much of those things out of the way so that the housing is lighter, and then I can work on it a little bit easier because that thing is so heavy.
I can't even imagine.
So heavy. I had to move it around the shop with my engine hoist. That's how heavy the dang thing is. So, but yeah, it feels good to finally get some work done on that. I bought I think I talked about this on our last show. I bought a inexpensive case spreader to try to get that
Oh
ring and
yeah,
pinion
yeah.
out with, or I should say, get the carrier out with. I haven't tried it yet. So, because I want to
You're
try
gonna
it on,
do like a little video, aren't you? Like
yep,
a reel? Okay.
I want to try it on video. In fact, I'm going to make a video about using the case spreader as long as it doesn't go horribly wrong. Because,
Right.
if I end up in the hospital or something, I don't
Right.
want to let people
You
know to go
well,
buy one.
well, then you can show that video and you might get like go
Yeah,
viral.
right.
Nate cuts off a finger.
Yeah, right,
So,
right.
and
And
then
I have the Jeep all loaded up on the trailer
I
because
was gonna say you're going somewhere fun.
yeah, we're going out to Bantam this weekend. If anyone's unfamiliar, that's the Bantam Jeep Heritage Festival.
Hmm.
It's out where the Bantam Car Company was founded, and they got this nice little historical museum and a big swap meet, and just a big vendor show and some trails to ride and stuff. We've been out there. This will be our third year. Um, it's fun. It's a fun little trip. So we're looking forward to that. Um, I may have a crazy idea if I can find some specific stuff at the swap meet, but I don't want to talk about it yet.
Oh, it's a
Just,
surprise. Stay
just
tuned.
stay tuned. Something I've always kind of wanted to do to the LJ. That if I can find the stuff that I need,
Hmm.
um,
You're looking
the
for
swap meet.
purple accessories, right?
Oh yeah, that's exactly it. That's exactly it. It's actually funny because the Jeep came with purple seats, so I do have some purple on it just to offset the seats. Totally
And
not.
the purple ammo can carriers I gave you.
I do still have those.
Yes.
Yeah, they're not in the Jeep, although they could be. I could put them in the Jeep. Then I would always know they were mine because nobody else is going to have purple ammo cans except maybe you. You don't have ammo cans anymore.
No, I don't. So, folks, we're Off Road Insiders. You can find us at Off Road Insiders on all the different social media sites. We're there, and you can email us if you have any ideas, great ideas that we should interview for guests on our show at offroadinsiders@gmail.com. And there's no dash in between off-road.
Right. Yeah, we focused on that everywhere except the website URL.
Right.
And the email address that we set up. So so we got a quick community corner, and then we're going to get into our guest because we have a guest tonight that we're going to get to as quickly as we can because he's just waiting there, muted and in the staging area. So,
yep.
The Onyx Off-Road Build Challenge. We talked about it a little bit when Dirt Lifestyle Nate was on.
Yep.
It's kind of in full swing now. They had some introductory stuff that went on like a month or two ago, it feels like. But now they're doing like the build interviews, right? So go check those out. Dirt Lifestyles was up, and there's a second one which I didn't get to watch yet. I don't know who they interviewed second. But yeah, they're starting to go. So if you're interested in following the challenge, then go get caught up.
Oh, and by the way, just for those of you who listen to our Dirt Lifestyle, he had some reels, I don't know if it's on YouTube yet, of his shop.
Yeah, it looks crazy.
Holy crap. Yeah.
He did a heck of a job on that thing.
Yeah, he did.
He said the video was supposed to come out in early June, right? So that should be maybe he usually releases on weekends. So maybe it'll be this weekend. That'd be cool.
So, do you want to introduce our guest? I feel like it's kind of
yeah, I'm getting banged up on for this episode.
Yeah,
we've got two TNT insiders on the show.
Yes.
So we've got Tanner from TNT Customs, and I can't really give him much of an interview because I don't know enough about him. But we may as well
intro. Yeah, we'll let Tanner introduce himself.
Yeah, exactly. So,
hey Tanner.
Hi Tanner.
Hey, how's it going?
So I'll let you go, man. Who's Tanner?
So I work for TNT. I don't know if that's pretty obvious or not with the title. So essentially, I started with TNT in 2016. I called Mary. I had to do an internship for school. So in school, I have a business degree, and we were required an internship. My degree path was actually to be a professional golfer. So most of my friends from college are golf professionals around the country. And so essentially I did another internship, you could say, and decided I didn't want to do that. And so a gentleman, he was like a grandfather to me and my brother. He did a lot of trail guiding for Jeep Jamboree. And so he had met Bob and Mary a couple of times. He said, hey, you should contact them. So I essentially called and said, hey, I have to do an internship for school. Would you be open to that? And Mary said, yes. She had to talk to Bob. They were kind of looking for someone per se, but not really. And so that spring then, or that summer, I moved out there. I actually moved into Bob and Mary's house before I'd ever met them. They were on a Bob's 50th birthday trip. They went to Petrified Forest, I think. It was for exploring before for exploring, where we take people on guided tours. And so, yeah, essentially I started working for them. I went back and finished my last semester of school. And that was the fall of 2016. And then 2017, I was full-time doing sales and stuff like that.
So they let you live with them?
Yeah, I lived with them. So I lived with them all that summer. And then when I moved back, I lived with them for like 9 months before I found an apartment and everything, because I was pretty specific on what I wanted for an apartment. I
Yeah.
could care less about how big the apartment was or anything like that. I wanted a garage because when I finished my Jeep, it hails in Wyoming, and I did not want my Jeep outside. So my Jeep barely fit through the door, and I could lock the garage door, and that's all I cared about.
Man, I'm in the same boat with my Jeep. My garage is just big enough right now for it, and once I get that Dana 60 or 60s built, I don't know where I'm going to park it anymore, because
Yep.
it's not going to fit in my garage unless I let all the air out of the tires.
Yeah, because I mean, you're minimum your 40s, in my opinion, with the 60s.
Yeah, I mean, in my head, I'm thinking, boy, maybe I could do 38s, but we'll see once it's built.
Yeah.
A
Well,
a 37, when you're talking ground clearance wise with the Dana 60, a 37 is about the same as my 33s.
Yep.
Right. So it's like, what am I really gaining if I don't go with anything significantly larger? So yeah,
Yep.
I know.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I'm gonna have garage problems when it's done, and I'm just maybe if I just take long enough, a larger garage will fall into my lap. Doesn't seem that likely, but
Yep.
never know.
Yep. So on your 60 rear, so we're building an LJ for my brother. I actually bought it from one of our terrain masters in Wyoming, and
Yeah.
brought it. My brother drove out one day. It takes about, I can do it in a day drive out there if I start at 8 a.m. because I live in Indiana. I didn't say that first. I live in Indiana where TNT's in Wyoming. So it takes me about a day to get out there. It's like a 16-hour drive. And so my brother and my dad drove out one day, picked up the Jeep, turned around, hit a snowstorm on the way back. And so they were in Wyoming for less than 3 hours and headed back.
Oh, wow.
But we're doing 37s, a small LS swap. I have axles out of a 78 Ford, 60 rear, high pinion 44 front. And so the rear, I'm actually cutting the spindles off, and we're going to do unit bearing cups from Brannick Motorsports to run the 05 Plus Super Duty unit bearings.
Okay.
And then essentially, obviously, axle shafts and all that stuff. But essentially, it'll run a drive slug in the rear, and then the front will be is what it is, kind of. So
Interesting.
Yep.
Yeah, the 60 I have is the rear 60 I have is slightly narrower than the Super Duty 60. So I was going to adapt bolt patterns with some wheel spacers, which will get me the width back and then make them the same bolt pattern. Seemed like a pretty elegant solution. As much as I hate spacers, I've always thought they were like the stupidest idea ever. But now I have a reason for them, so I don't hate them so much.
Well, and if you use a good spacer, like I mean, we only use Spider Track spacers. And I can't tell you I've ever seen one of those fail, but it's a maintenance thing too of making sure that stuff is torqued.
Yeah, it'll just be one more thing to check every so often as I'm maintaining the rig.
Yep.
So cool. So why? I mean, this may be digging a little off the beaten path, but if you work in Wyoming, why do you live in Indiana?
So I can get to most off-road parks here within 9 hours. So I can get to Roush Creek within 9 hours. I can get down to Windrock within 7 hours. S'more, so Southern Missouri Off-Road Ranch, is about 9-ish hours. And so and it used to be, so a customer that we built a Jeep for, he used to do a big show. And I'm going to say this wrong, but it's like 50% of the population of the United States actually lives within 500 miles of Louisville.
Oh,
that's what it used to be. I don't know if it's that was quite a few years ago. So there is more off-road events on this side of the country. And so I can hit those events. And when we go to off-road events, I don't go to the shows, is the best way to explain it. So like Bob and Mary had gone to Bantam, and there's a little bit of wheeling at Bantam, but I specifically find events that are mainly wheeling. Because honestly, I hate sitting in a booth, and we call people that walk around at the booths a lot sticker hunters. because that's what you get a lot of. And
Yeah.
our stuff isn't the pretty stuff per se. Like it all looks really, really good and everything, but it's designed to go wheeling. And so it's one of those things of my Jeep shows better wheeling than it does at a show.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Why make it sit there and do nothing when you can show how well it works? That's probably a better testament to the product than sitting around at a booth with a rack full of bumpers next to you.
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
And those people, I think, walking around those vendor shows are just your regular. They're people like me. They're the daily driver, weekend warrior, and they're not. Their pocketbook is not as big as probably others.
There's a good thing about those shows. So I'm really good friends with the guys at Warren and Factor 55 and Curry, or not Curry, Rock Jock and all that. Like when I go to events, a lot of times those guys are there, but Warren will sell maybe $200,000 at some of the big shows, all at that event.
Yeah.
So but they have a little trinket size thing, and I guess this is a podcast, so they can't see my hands, but they have a trinket size thing or a winch that they can take. Sergio, who works for Warren, his whole trailer, it's a 48-foot trailer. He shoves 2 Jeeps in there, and then the rest of it is all inventory that he takes to the shows, and they'll sell out a lot of times of all their stuff.
Sergio, who used to be with Spiderweb Shade.
Correct. Yep.
He is such a fun guy. I met him at a Jamboree a couple years ago. Gave me a killer deal on a Spiderweb Shade because I only had $20 in my wallet and he didn't take cards. He's such a fun guy.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see. I know. So the gentleman, Mike McCoy, is the gentleman that told me to call TNT. And he had known Sergio for a long time. Bob and Mary have known him for quite a while as well. And then here I went to Trail Hero this last year, and so I hung out with those guys quite a bit. And Smoky Mountain Jeep Invasion, I go down there because Windrock is pretty much right next to Pigeon Forge. So I wheel the whole entire time during Smoky Mountain Jeep Invasion and catch people coming in and catch people going out. So I may go to the show one day, but we wheel a lot together there and hang out. And this last year, at Trail Hero, he rode with me quite a bit on the harder trails because all he had was his Gladiator, and so he's a good dude, a lot of fun.
Yeah, he's a fun guy.
So just for folks listening, Bob and Mary are the owners of TNT Customs. They're originally from Wisconsin, and Bob was in the military, got stationed out here in Cheyenne, and they decided to make Cheyenne, Wyoming their home. So just a little background.
Tammy, that's a great transition because the next thing I was going to ask was, what the heck is TNT Customs? In case anybody listening doesn't know. So I guess you're both qualified to fill in on that one.
We're many things. Tanner's like our national guy. He does our Jeep aftermarket parts, which I'll let him tell that. And we also own an auto repair shop, or they run an auto repair shop, and we do truck accessories and bed liners, and that's kind of here in Cheyenne, that's kind of what I do. And I do the marketing as well. But Tanner, I think the main reason we asked Tanner to be here is our Jeep parts, our aftermarket Jeep parts that we manufacture.
So we manufacture everything in-house. So essentially, I should preface, there's like machining components. We don't do machining. So we do flat work and tube and everything like that. So flat work is like taking raw steel sheets and breaking it, forming it, stuff like that. So we do all that in-house. All our machining is actually done 2 hours away in Casper, Wyoming, from a company. And then we use Summit Machine flex joints. So she's over in Utah, and we've been using those for a long time. So we build anything from body armor, suspension, brackets, axle trusses, you name it, we probably build it. It might not always be on the website, but we try to get it up there as quickly as possible. Skid plates,
control arms, suspension parts.
Yep, anything and everything really. And then we do full Jeep builds. So when I started in 2016, we were all at the facility we actually just moved out of. And so everything was there. It was Jeep shop and manufacturing, shipping, powder coating. We just moved out of that. We no longer do powder coating. We have someone locally that does that. And then in 2017 we bought the auto shop. So it was auto shop and manufacturing. That's how we labeled it. And the auto shop was more, we took the Jeep shop over there and gave us more room at manufacturing. And that's when we brought the bed liners in, the truck accessories, all that stuff. So we have our hand in a little bit of everything. But my favorite thing is the manufacturing. Obviously, wheeling is more my favorite thing, but I like the manufacturing.
Any job that lets me wheel for a living, right?
Yep,
Right.
absolutely.
Tanner has the best job out of all of us because he gets to go to all the events
Yep.
and wheel. He doesn't have to sit at a booth. I had to sit at a booth this past topless day.
I don't do the duck topless thing.
No,
Like
yeah.
I want to be out in the rock. That's where I meet people the best, because you're talking to them, you're spotting them. There's when I first started, I had only really, the wheeling I had done was sand dunes. So up in Michigan, they have Silver Lake sand dunes. That's the
Yeah.
wheeling I had done. But obviously, I wanted to do rock crawling, and so when we first started, we went up to South Dakota. I had maybe been there 2 weeks, and we went up there, and I was on a trail. It's called Fruity Pebbles, and all that up in South Dakota. And there's a bypass called Got Milk. We were on the bypass, but everyone in that group was 37s or above, and I'm 33s, open, never done rock crawling. Bob literally walked the whole trail with me that day, showing me where to put my tires, how to spot and everything. I like helping people with that. And that just shows product wise, like, hey, we know what we're doing because we actually go wheeling and stuff like that. There's a lot of companies that do racing, which racing is awesome. Someday I hope to get to that point, but it's not the same as wheeling the 99%. I'd say
Oh,
99.9%.
absolutely. You watch Ultra 4 and it's like super exciting and you're like, wow, that's amazing.
Yep.
Totally unrelatable rigs. They're just not even identifiable as a street vehicle, which is what 99% of the enthusiasts are driving.
Yep. So the guy that just commented, the best spotter I've had the pleasure of wheeling with, he just doesn't listen when you're spotting him and backs his Jeep into a wall, or he almost runs you over. So that's Tammy. You met Casey last year, or just before South Dakota, the yellow JL that was in the parking lot.
Yeah.
Okay. He said he was going to get on here and troll me. So
I got to get back into the. I'm not in the. I got to find the chat room.
Comment.
Oh, there it is.
So I guess getting back to it, because I got off topic. So my favorite things are manufacturing. Bob's is building custom Jeeps. And the reason we got into manufacturing way back in 2004, 2005-ish, Bob retired from the military. He was building stuff in the garage way before that. And so he started building more stuff. Well, there just wasn't parts out there available for a lot of these Jeeps.
That's how a lot of these places got started, because the industry was still being built. Yeah.
Yep. And so I call that the golden era of manufacturers, because a lot of the manufacturers came from them right then. And it was just before the JK, because the JK boosted a lot of people, but you still had all the XJ, the TJ, CJ, stuff like that. So that's like the golden era, and people were being super innovative.
I was in the sport then, but not to the level that I'm in now, because I was still kind of like a broke young man. And there was a forum I hung out on, which had a bunch of like home fabricators and whatever that were doing all kinds of insane stuff, like 1/4 elliptical suspensions, and like some of the first 4-links I'd ever seen came out of that era. They were still figuring out whether the spring over axle was better than a coil over. It was a fun time to be just kind of watching the sport.
The gentleman I hang out with down at Windrock that works for Rock Jock 4x4, his name is Max Dollinger. He owned a shop called Moab Off Road in Louisville. And one night we had to pull his gas tank because we were on the trail, and if on a JK or the later TJ fuel tanks like yours, that pump, if you have an aftermarket tank, it doesn't. Some of the aftermarket tanks, that pump doesn't sit down all the way, and it can separate if you hit something hard enough. So his separated on the trail. So here I am under his Jeep with a pretty much full tank, 32
Oh,
gallons,
geez.
bench pressing
Oh,
this out of there, getting it. And we were talking about all the innovative stuff and everything that night because he was a really big shop. People sent him stuff just to try stuff. And so like Nth Degree, which is now owned by, they're not really around, but everything went to AEV.
Yeah.
They essentially were like one of the first people to stretch a TJ. They had this 5-inch stretch in the rear.
Yep.
And he did a lot of stuff like that. And there's still a bunch of stuff out there like that. And so we've done a bunch of innovative. We were really the first dual triangulated rear suspension kit on the market. Everyone did a single triangulation. Bob wanted to do dual triangulation because he used to do race car stuff, and that was something that he wanted to keep and everything like that.
I did not know that.
So
learned something new.
That's cool. What? So you said 04, 05, that's when TNT was founded. That's when they first officially became a business.
Yep. And
cool. So like 20 years? Yeah, it's about 20 years.
Yeah. Yep. And the actual name is This and That Customs.
That was one of my questions because I saw somebody in chat, which
Tammy
I think already
and
knew
Tanner.
the answer. There you go.
Uh-huh.
There you go.
Actually, it was Bob's granddaughter.
Nope.
Was it?
No. Aaron.
Oh, it was
Bob
Aaron.
Bob had a his one of his Jeeps was a CJ Scrambler, and it had axles out of I think it was a Dodge. He was on 37s or something, and maybe bigger tire. But he had a 440 out of an RV, I think it was. It was lime green. And so they were at a car show, and a guy came up, and Bob was talking to someone else, and Erin was there. I want to say she was in her teens. And the guy was like, "Oh, what's this I'll have?" Talking to Erin. And she goes, "Oh, it has a little bit of this and a little bit of that." And that's where it came from.
There you go. It's some of the best businesses don't like. Some people put hours and hours and hours into deciding like what exactly should we name a business.
Right.
And sometimes it just comes, right?
Yep.
Exactly.
I feel the same way about naming Jeeps, right? A Jeep shouldn't be named; it should be earned, right?
Right.
I've never officially named a Jeep; they always earn a name.
Mm-hmm. Mine's just Tanner's Jeep.
Yeah. Mine's just the LJ because it hasn't earned a name in the 8 years that I've owned it, so that's what it's called now.
Mine is just my Jeep.
Yeah.
That's my mom owns a landscaping business, and their name it's Daniel Landscape Design, and it came from sitting at a bar, and they couldn't figure out what they didn't like Daniel Landscaping, so there was 4 of them sitting at a bar, and that's how that name came about. And then we have 4 dump trucks, and all of them, they kind of have just special names to them as well, but they all come with the truck. Like, you kind of figure it out once you've owned the truck a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. The only Jeep I've had that had a name was I had a Navajo metallic turquoise YJ, and everyone called it the Smurf because of the blue color that it was.
Right.
And that's the only one that's ever had an official name. All right, so you guys are in Cheyenne, Wyoming, right?
Yep.
And that's just because that's where Bob landed. There's no special reason for that. It's just, I'm in Wyoming. I'm going to start my shop in Wyoming.
Yep.
That's cool. That's cool. What's it like in Wyoming? I was kind of curious. Like,
Wyoming is right at the edge of the plains.
Yeah.
The start of the Rocky Mountains. So you can see the mountains a little bit. It's very dry. We're at about 6,000 feet.
It's considered high plains, arid desert.
Yeah. Everybody here complains about the wind. I don't know. The wind doesn't bother me. It bothers everyone else. I grew up in North Dakota, so it's windy there. And then apparently there's crazy hail. I haven't seen it yet. I don't know. When you were living here, Tanner, did you see any of the big, huge hail?
That was when I started living there, because I lived out there for like 4 or 5 years. 4 years, 5, however it was. I never saw big hail, but like one time, that was the first time I ever saw hail, because we don't really have hail in Indiana.
Right.
Very, very rare. And if it is, it's like little peas or stuff.
Hmm.
And the first big storm was, I think, 2016, that summer that I saw it. And there were such big pieces, it was breaking glass in downtown Cheyenne because it was hitting the concrete with so much force, it would bounce back and break the glass windows.
Wow.
Hmm.
That is pretty crazy.
And
I
one of our,
haven't, knock on wood, experienced it yet.
yeah, you
I've had-
don't want to. It's scary.
I've had a couple hailstorms here in PA. Usually they're nowhere near that bad, but I had one car. I had a Dodge Neon that I was using as a commuter car. That thing it had to be repaired twice for hail. No other vehicle have I ever owned that actually was damaged by hail, but that thing got pelted like it was hit by golf balls, and I had it fixed under insurance. And then the next time it got hit, it was totaled. It was totaled by a hailstorm.
I should say that Wyoming is a very icky place to live. You do not want to move
No.
here. So
Yeah, we
stay-
don't accept people.
You don't
Yeah.
want a bunch of people moving to Wyoming.
no, stay where you are. It's already
Well,
happening in Jackson.
I get-
so
I get this impression of Wyoming that it's a very wilderness area. Is that true?
Yeah, but you got to go like find like it's the
Yeah.
least populated state in the union.
Mhm.
Okay.
You have Cheyenne, Casper, Laramie, but like
Jackson.
Jackson Hole, stuff like
Yeah.
that. But like, it's not like, oh, I'm gonna pop over to city next door or whatever. Like popping over to city next door is you're driving an hour, 2 hours, 3
Mhm.
hours. Cheyenne and Casper typically bounce back and forth between who has the most population. And it's probably more now because more people have moved up there. But when I lived out there, it was like 70 to 80,000, I think it was.
So
In
it sounds
Yeah.
similar to certain parts of, at least anyway, of Pennsylvania, where there's a lot of wilderness area and then a city, and then wilderness area and then a city.
Yep.
Except we don't have any Rocky Mountains.
Right.
Yeah.
We have the
You,
Appalachians.
Yeah.
We have
Which aren't terrible.
snowy mountains.
Yeah. You
Yeah.
have to go way north to get the Bighorns, and then
Mhm.
you have to go way west to get the branch of the Rockies that go up into Yellowstone National
Yep.
Park. You have the Tetons, which are right on the border of Wyoming and Idaho. And then there's in the center, there's mountains there in the center.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
there's also nothing there in the center. Like,
Right.
like that's the best thing about it. Like you can literally go out and there's just nothing, and it's great.
The thing is, the Oregon Trail went through Wyoming, and there's Independence Rock, where if the pioneers weren't there by July 4th, they turned around because there's so many spots along the Oregon Trail where tons of people died because they got caught in the
Yeah.
storms.
Yep.
So
Yeah, going through the Rockies, I'd assume.
yeah, they found I think it's called South. I can't remember the name of the pass, but it's the lowest point that they could find. They followed along the North Platte and then the Sweetwater River, I believe it was.
Well,
So
and there's like the Morrison Jeep Trail. I think is that
yeah.
right? That's up there. And like everyone talks about Black Bear Pass. This is worse.
Yeah.
Black Bear is
yeah.
just
A baby trail.
I've seen some pretty terrifying videos of Black Bear Pass. I don't know what's worse.
Anything with a ledge, count me out.
A couple years ago, I think it was Bleepin' Jeep had a video out of him and his wife were on Black Bear Pass. In there, they have a JL, a two-door JL, and they were in that, right? And this like freak storm cropped up, and it was just downpour. Things are washing down. I think one of the roads got washed out. Some people got stranded on the pass and everything. It was crazy. Interesting video to go watch. I'll have to go look it up and see if I can find it and put it in the show notes for folks. But yeah, it was pretty crazy to watch.
We were up in on Red Cone. I think it was Red Cone in Colorado, which gets about 12,800 feet. And it was Bob and I. We had stopped because we have a big video on I call it the big video, but it is a big video on YouTube and all our social media stuff. And we took a couple of videos on Redcone. We had a videographer and everything, and we got separated from the group just because we were in the back and taking longer doing these videos and everything. And right in the middle, right when we were on top, a huge storm rolled in, and it was snowing. This is August. A storm rolled came in. It was snowing. You couldn't see 10 feet in front of you.
Wow.
It was crazy.
I'll have to go find this video and share it. It's
So,
on what's it called on the YouTube channel?
I don't know. It's the big one. I don't think you'll get. I don't know
The
that
big
we
one,
have
Tammy.
I know.
The big
It's
one.
the big video.
I should know that.
Weren't you paying attention? It's the big
honestly,
one.
I can't tell you what that video is called. But I don't know that any of that footage is in there of the storm and everything because the camera couldn't see anything.
Well, it's probably just like white screen.
Yep.
You know, yeah.
Yeah, right. In Blizzard. All right, so we kind of rabbit trailed a bit there.
Yeah,
I had one last question about TNT in general, and I think this one's obvious. You do online business as well. Where can people find your online store?
So TNTCustoms.com is the online store. You can scroll through, find all the different products and everything. If there's something on there that you're like, oh, that's cool, I want that, give us a call. I can help you out. You can order online. There's also a texting part of our website that you can get on. You'll see my face on that one. We actually got more texts when it was just a random girl as the photo instead of me. So I think Mary's going to switch it back.
Are you serious? I did not know that.
Are you taking offense
absolutely.
by that?
We did get more. We did get more.
Oh, well, it's probably because it's mainly guys trying.
Well, everybody wants to chat with the cute girl in the headset, not the bearded guy.
Yep, absolutely, yeah. So essentially,
it's not just an AI chatbot because that's what everybody else is doing nowadays.
No, so I take care of those, and like I answer on Saturdays and Sundays, or try to if I can. Now, if it's like, where's my order on a Saturday or Sunday, I'm not going to answer. But like, hey, this is what I'm looking for my Jeep. I'll send you a quick text back. This is what you need, or we need to have a longer conversation on Monday or something like that. But we got that because people, if they have issues on the weekends, most businesses can't answer those issues, and that's the only time people can work on their stuff. And so we got that for essentially that. Now it's only texting because a lot of times I'm doing stuff and I can shoot a quick text but not a phone call, stuff like that. But it does help a lot. And if you see something on any of our videos or social media and you're like, oh, that's cool, I probably can make it for you. It's just something we haven't got on the site yet, or we're working on it and stuff like that.
Cool. So yeah, I have been on and off of your website a few times, so I knew it was there, but I figured people should know where you're at.
Yep.
All right, and one last sort of section I wanted to talk about. I've seen on your website, and Tammy's talked about this on previous shows, you guys have a Terrain Masters program. Can you tell me what that is and kind of how people get involved with it and what's expected of them?
So essentially it's a sign up on the website, and a Terrain Master is a brand ambassador. And I'm not going to say influencer because we don't really want those per se. There's a difference in those two names, in my opinion, in our opinion. So the brand ambassador is someone that they either have our parts or want our parts, and they're willing to work to get a discount on those parts and stuff like that. So they're expected to obviously push TNT, but it's not something of hey, you should go buy this. I don't have any of that stuff, but you should go buy this type of deal, or I received this for free. And this is kind of, we don't play the free game is the best way to explain it. We just don't play that game. It never, in our opinion, it never works out well for the manufacturer and that person that got something for free per se. And it's not everyone. It's just, I'll just say it's not everyone. They're going to be on to the next thing the next year and then your followers or the people you're influencing are like, well, they had this and I bought it with money, my hard-earned money, and now they're going to this.
Now
Why
they
is
don't.
this
Yeah.
better than that? And so we don't play that. So you can earn discounts, you can earn other stuff. It's through sharing on social media, doing events, stuff like that. You get a discount code for people. That way they can go, hey, I talked to Tammy. Tammy's is JM000, I think.
I think
Is that
so.
your discount code?
I think so.
And so, and there we have, I think we have 20 train masters. And it is not for everyone per se.
Yeah.
If you're someone that is an ambassador for every different company, I'm probably not going to pick you because we know what you're doing there.
You're getting
but
discounts on everything. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
Collecting the codes.
if you truly, and I don't mean this to offend anyone because that's how people make a living a lot of times. There's a bunch of people like that.
Yeah, no, I get it.
But it's more about the loyalty and stuff like that. We have quite a few. Bobby Portalatin is a perfect example of a great train master. Obviously, there's others. So if any of our train masters are
I
listening,
know, Liz, you're going to offend.
I'm using Bobby because Bobby is a good friend of mine. He lives 2 hours down the road from me. And I didn't know Bobby before he was a train master. Bobby signed up. He had a pretty stock two-door JK. And he essentially was like signed up to be a train master. Bobby, he's probably listening to this podcast because he listens to a bunch of podcasts and everything like that. But so he signed up and he started working for stuff. He shared stuff and everything. Bobby got a very healthy discount on a full two-door 6-inch stretch suspension, body armor, everything.
Dang.
And so he put all that stuff. He was the first one to do it. He put all that stuff on in his garage. The Jeep works fantastic. 2 years ago now, he came up to my shop. So I rent a little portion of my mom's landscaping barn. I have a lift. I have a lot of fabrication tools and everything like that. Came up to my shop. We did the 4-speed Atlas. He's got sticky traps, Maxxis Trappadors. And if you don't know us, we like Maxxis. And I will argue with anyone out there that Maxxis Traps stickies are an all-around best tire for everything.
You're not the first person I've heard say that.
And
It was I think there was a podcast I used to listen to. They were all about the trips.
Yep. And there's there's a lot of guys, and tires are a whole conversation, but there's a lot of guys that they stick to the tire they like just because that's the only one they've ever tried. I'm not afraid of trying other tires. Bob's tried every tire out there. But you also can look at a tire and know how something's going to perform compared to how it won't perform on stuff. And so, like, you go out to Sand Hollow and Moab, a bald tire is going to stick out there because it's 40 grit sandpaper. But you come back here to the East Coast, and that type of tire does not work. So you have to have the ability to eject mud. You have to have the ability to have some sidewall strength and sidewall grip and all that.
I've seen a number of high-profile YouTube channels that are on those Patagonias, and they wheel great out west.
Out west, well,
but they come out here to the East Coast, and they're like, "Why can't we stick to anything?" Well, welcome to Pennsylvania Rocks.
Yep, absolutely. I call them. I don't know if I want to say this because I might get you guys banned or they'll hate you. But I call them Patagonia Nowheres, and I trademark that so people who know that came from me. And essentially, my buddy Will from Carnage Motorsports, he calls them Patagucci's.
Yeah.
So, but I call them Patagonia Nowheres because basically they do work well out there, but they're a flat round tire. The other thing was they were an economical option. One of my Treps is 2 of those tires, but one of my Treps lasts 2 times as long as one of theirs. So it comes around to I'm not switching tires.
Yeah, it works out in the end.
Yep. So, but getting back on course. Bobby's Jeep does amazing stuff, and stuff that essentially it's like that Jeep's just on 37s and it did that. And a perfect example is a trail at S'more, and I'm not going to remember the name of it, but essentially I tried it. I could not get up it. And Bobby put his in as a 4-speed Atlas so he can go low. And he got on there, didn't even slip a tire, and his whole Jeep just lifted up over this about 7-8 foot ledge. And his one tire was just dangling back there, and it just pulled him up. And so it was super cool. But I mean, all our train masters. I was on a phone call today with Robert Beck, who's a train master.
He's in
And
Texas.
the only reason, yep, he actually had golf ball or baseball size hail today while I was talking to him.
Oh, geez.
And he's a truck driver, and he's just stuck in his truck. But he met us from South Dakota. He had ordered our armor before that. I had never met him. Went up to South Dakota. He was at the TNT event, Rockfest, 605 Rockfest. Started talking to him, all this other stuff. He became a train master, super good dude. We got some stuff, some prototyping stuff we're going to do on his Jeep. He goes and wheels all over. His wife, Jennifer, is awesome. Joel, who runs our train master program, I met him. We did a sale on XJ bumpers, and he came up and bought 2 of them, and we've been good friends ever since. I bet we sat in the office and talked for 2 hours that day. And I mean, there's a bunch of them. Vince Lucas ordered our fenders, corners, sliders when his Jeep was on 33s or 35s. He's from Virginia, West Virginia.
Isn't he the one? He has a podcast too.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
God, I gotta remember that.
He just ordered pretty much a full 40 Trail Boss package, which is 106 wheelbase, full suspension, full armor, all that stuff. He's putting that together right now. Back half kit. I mean, there's a bunch of train masters that, and I'm forgetting them.
And it's more like it's like a little family. It's not like, oh, you know, Susie over there is doing this and you don't really know who she is. It's like we're all like this little family. It's very
cool.
mom and pop-ish.
So look, I have this guy. We'll call him a friend. He's got an LJ. He's putting these Dana 60s under it. He's got a YouTube channel and he runs a podcast, right?
Well,
he's looking for some discounts.
I'm going to tell that friend the first thing to do is throw that Super Duty 60 out the door.
What do you mean?
Oh, that I will, and I will argue this with people. So whoever wants to argue,
let's argue.
It on. We just gotta. That is for a Jeep to do everything. That is one of the worst front axles you can put in a Jeep.
Okay.
And I'm gonna go over the reasons why. So first off, the center section is in the complete wrong place. So instead of being under the Jeep, it is actually underneath or farther under the Jeep. It is right under the frame. So minimum, you're running at least in world 6 inches of lift to get proper up travel. In our opinion, a proper up travel. So that's 1. 2, the lower control arms are in the exact wrong spot because you have to go wider with them. So you're throwing off your suspension geometry. 3, most of the time you're essentially spending more on that axle in the long run, between labor, time-wise, and parts-wise, to get it to the same place as an aftermarket axle housing. Now, that is spread out. That is spread out over the course of the axle build and everything. When you start adding everything up, the axle is super, super heavy. You have to re-drill or whatever.
I found that out.
Yeah. You have to re-drill the front rotors to get either 8 on 6.5 or run spacers in the rear.
Yep.
The steering is not ideal because you're either going to put aftermarket knuckles on it or you're going to do someone's weld-on high steer or send your knuckles out to get machined. And so there's been more than once that the people that do the weld-on version have 0 steering capability. So you're gonna be like Austin Powersing it down the trail because you can't turn as tight as you wish you could with that steering setup. There's ways to get around that, obviously, and so in our opinion, that axle is not worth throwing into a vehicle. And a lot of times you'll have guys that are running 37s and 44s. I'm going to put my hand up. That are going to outwheel you on that trail because you are so much heavier than them and you're hanging down so much lower and your suspension geometry isn't the best. And so that's our opinion on that.
So, Tammy, we got to talk because you were here before I bought the Super Duty 60. You could have mentioned something.
So,
doesn't this go around the shop at all?
We might have lost her.
Tammy's like, don't call me out on this. It ain't my fault. She does seem like she's hung, so we'll give her a minute to try to respond.
Yeah.
Now there, I can hear you now.
So you guys kept pausing. I don't know if something's wrong with my internet. Did I miss a question?
No. Tanner was telling me why I should not put the Super Duty 60 under the LJ, and I called you out because you were here before I bought the Super Duty 60, and you didn't stop. So now it's your fault.
Yeah. I just do bed liners and truck accessories. I'm not up on that yet. I do know about timing chains now and all that.
Only because of necessity, right?
Right. So
no, so I mean the both axles, to be honest, that I have are probably not the ideal choices for the swap that I'm working on. But they are what I have, and if I keep switching axles, then I'm never going to get the project done.
So is Tanner still there? Or
now I think Tanner froze.
Yeah.
We're just having, maybe it's a StreamYard thing and not an us thing.
Yeah.
Because you froze, now Tanner froze.
Yeah. I guess we'll just.
Well, that was pretty much all the questions I had for Tanner anyway. So if he does drop, then it's really not the end of the world. Although he was fun to chat with. So I hope he makes it back. And I really want to know if that's a chalkboard behind him. But now he's gone. He dropped.
He's totally gone. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh well, we were about done anyway. So if he tries to dial back in, then we'll bring him back. But really, we're at about the end of our hour. The only thing I had left was some news, and I can really just like high level cover those quick. One of them was a student project where they built a solar powered camper vehicle and took it 620 miles through a desert to prove that it worked. It's pretty cool. So there'll be a link for that. It's from Car and Driver in the notes of today's show. That EV Jeep we talked about last show, what was it? The Wagoneer, the Grand Wagoneer, EV. It's out now, and there's a price attached to it. It's like $72,000.
That is just, it's crazy how much. Well, everything is going up.
Make sure I got
Cars,
that number right. I think the price
housing,
$72,000. Avocados are expensive.
Yeah.
I didn't know that avocados were impacted by the economy.
Even like a bag of chips is $6 now for a bag of chips.
The other day, this totally off topic. The other day we were at the grocery store and we were picking up a 12-pack of soda, 12-pack of Pepsi, I think it was.
How much is it up there?
It was, my wife's like, oh, they have it on sale, 2 for $12. I'm like, I remember when you could get a 24-pack for $6. Now it's Maryland, $12. It's literally twice the price.
Yep, it's crazy.
So yeah, and then the other one was an off-road race in Kenya. This is from Al Jazeera. This is actually a YouTube video, but an off-road race in Kenya that they run every year to raise money to save some water towers. I didn't get a chance to look into exactly like what problem they're solving, but they have this off-road race, and it's crazy. It's like true wilderness. They give you GPS points to get to, and there's no trail between you and there. You have to get there, figure it out, and whatever. So
it's kind of like the Rebel Rally in a way, kind of.
It looked kind of neat.
There's
except the Rebel Rally is like you need to find a route. This is like you need to find a way through the brush.
Right. I was going to say there are some places in the desert, but you don't have lions and whatever else you would have in Kenya. That would
links to all three of those will be in the show notes.
So you Oh yeah, Tanner lost power.
Oh no.
Yeah,
Well, tell him we really enjoyed having him on the
Yeah.
show, and he cut out at just the right time because other than giving me a hard time over my axles,
right.
um,
I'm just messaging him. What was I say? Oh, so next weekend you're going to Bantam.
yep.
So then the following weekend, do we have any ideas what we're going to do?
I don't know. We're gonna have a show, and it'll
Yep.
be about off-road stuff.
Um, I'm thinking I should contact the other guy. He's a train master, and he also, I can't remember the name of his podcast. He does a podcast, an off-road podcast with a lady, I shouldn't say girl, and they're
Okay.
out of West Virginia. So maybe I'll reach out to him, Lucas, and I still need to reach out to Dan Greck. So if anyone else has any ideas, let us know, and we'll reach out to them. And in the meantime, stay tuned to my social media, and everybody cross your fingers that my engine swap goes good.
I'm sure it'll be fine. You're in good hands with the.
Yeah.
It looks like you're in good hands with the folks in TNT. But man, projects like that.
Oh,
I've never done an actual engine swap, but I did the lifters on the JK, and I did a lifter, I should say. I should have done them all while I was in there. I'm still kicking myself for that.
Yeah.
I did the bad one, which means that any day now another one's going to go bad because I didn't do
Right.
the others. Anyway, but I also did that all those seals on the 4.0. I did the valve cover seal, or valve cover gasket, I should say, the oil pan
Right.
gasket and the rear main seal. And that was another big project where I had to like tear off a fender and everything. Those big projects, they feel so overwhelming because
yeah.
you have parts everywhere, and you're probably feeling that right now because
Oh,
there's
I
parts
do,
of
and
your
I'm
Jeep
like,
all over the shop.
he's not even. I mean, I'm like, how do you gonna know what to plug back into what?
Yeah,
And
right.
he had to take the oil pan or the engine skid off, and it's a very scary. Most people don't get to see
Yeah.
the sausage being made.
Yeah, you drop it off at your mechanic. They're like, come
Uh-huh.
back in 2 weeks, and they
And
give you updates
I'm
every
like,
so often. And they're like, they tell you the things, and the things just go in one ear and out the other because you don't have the context.
right.
You
And
got the context, Tammy.
all of a sudden I hear this banging, and I'm like, what's he doing now? And then I
What is
hear, I
that?
see him doing this and looking, and I'm like, oh, what's he gonna find wrong now? And we pulled out this little bottle from when I was on my first trip, and it dropped in the engine bay, and it has been there ever since. This little bottle of it was one of our sponsors that turned out to be a snake oil company.
Is it
So
a bottle of snake oil?
oh, it pretty much is. I wish I can't remember where I put it. It's somewhere. Anyway, it's quantum coatings. It's like these nanobots that are supposed to clean all your oils and
Oh, okay.
fluids, and like, yeah, no, this doesn't sound too. Anyway, the bottle must have fell, and it's been sitting in my engine bay for 4 years now, almost 5 years, just stuck in there.
Yeah.
So I'll
that
be
sounds
I'll be
about right.
curious to see when we
Probably a
pull
10
off.
millimeter socket in there somewhere.
Oh yeah, I'll be curious to see what happens when we pull the engine out to see what the Misfire 6 is going to look like.
That's where the socket is.
Probably. Oh,
Neil put it in there just
I know.
just for you to find later.
I think he did something to it, but the guys are like, if he did something to it, it would have been catastrophic right then and there.
Yeah.
So I don't know. We'll see. But
If you find a socket in there, I want a picture.
yeah, I will. I'll go live. So, yep, folks, join us in not next Monday, but the following Monday. You can listen to us live on YouTube. If not, you can find us on all those places you can find podcasts. That's where
all the places you find podcasts, except Google Podcasts, which is apparently shutting down like everything else Google.
Yep.
Never trust Google to host anything.
No.
Except a search engine.
And thank you, Tanner, for joining us.
Yeah, that
I
was
will
a
be.
it's a
I
fun
will be.
conversation. Maybe I need to look into being a terrain master now.
I will be wheeling with Tanner. We're going to 605 Jeeps, which is in South Dakota. That's the zip code there, up in the Black Hills Forest, up by Mount Rushmore area, around Sturgis, Deadwood. There's an off-road event that we host with them called 605 Jeeps Rock Fest 2024. The last week in June, I will be heading up there with TNT and other Jeepers. I will be in the passenger seat doing my job with my camera, getting videos.
Cool.
Some people say it's one of the most serious trails in the country. So I've been to a few of them, so I'll let you know.
Awesome. All right. Well, folks, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Thanks for whatever it is that you're doing to
Chatting,
consume.
typing.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Thanks for that, too. Looking for the button here for the music. Here we go.
Y'all have a great week.
Yep. We'll catch you in 2 weeks.